Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. If you are joining me, let me know where you're coming from. I see some friends here. Let's fix that. I am trying to get back into streaming on a regular basis. Not that I've ever done that, but I want to try and get back to that. So here we are. Hello, Garish. Hello, Gennady. Hello. Hello, friends. Thank you. Pad 5. Thanks for joining me. Pasha. Mr. Med. Oh, this is a good one. Yeah, get your questions in. I have a few things that I'm going to do here, and you guys can just hang out, ask some questions. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Let me know if the music's too loud. I'm trying to get like a chill vibe here. We can just hang out. You could put me on in the background if you want. Like I said, I want to get back to just regular streaming. I think this is fun. I do a lot of things that are like prep work for the content I'm working on, and it'd be fun to just hang out. It gets lonely here. All the girls are in school. I'm here by myself in the dungeon, in the basement, in my new office, by the way. I got the whole office painted, changed the background, getting a new desk, an uplift desk. Can't wait to hear that. Oh, okay, we can't hear music. That's good to know. Let's see if we can fix that. So let me change this. Well, first, let me turn it up. Maybe it's just a system thing. All right, I turned it up. Let me know if you can hear anything. If not, I'm going to try something. I'm using Ecamm Live. I've been a big fan of this for a while. And there's a way to pipe in music, and I use Epidemic Sound for all my YouTube videos, so I have access to all this kind of royalty-free music, and some of it's like chill, so I'll bring you right back in a second, Mr. Med. Ecamm preferences. Let's see if we can't figure out this music thing. Audio. System output mode. You're activating system output mix mode. Ecamm Live will not be mix movie audio, sound, or graphics. Okay, there's a change. Let's see if that does anything. Oh, broadcast system audio. This should be system audio all the time. How can we get the system audio in here? Sound effects, no. Oh, bummer. I really wanted some like chill music in here. All right, just give me a second and then we'll get to it. Speakers is that. Broadcast system audio, yes. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to get to your questions and share some things. Play app sounds. All right, let's ask the Googles. You can change the setting for your broadcast system audio. By default, Ecamm Live will broadcast your Mac system audio when in screen share mode. All right, one more minute. If I can't figure it out, we'll punt on the music to the next time. That's okay. Video, audio, speakers. Let me just see here. So here's system audio. That might be loud. Test, test. All right. Yeah, I have system audio here, but it does not seem to want to share that. Oh, bummer. All right. Let me check one more thing, and then we'll call that a no-go for today, but that's okay. Overlays, recordings, output, audio monitor. Oh, so I think it's maybe when I'm in screen share mode only. Let's try this. Let's go over to this. Let's see. Now I still don't see anything on the system audio. All right. Well, I'm listening to it. That's okay though. Mic level, select sound. That's a bummer. But I'm guessing you can hear some sound effects. And some applause. All right, we will figure that out for the next stream. That's okay. That's okay. I got some chill music. Just pretend you have some chill music. If you have some, put some on in the background. Let me get back to some questions here. Hey, Dan, what do you think makes someone a full stack dev? Is it all about user experience or just being able to work both the front end and the back end? Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think it's really hard to be a well-versed full stack developer because some people consider full stack everything. So not just front end and back end, but DevOps too. And it's enough to like know a little to be dangerous. It's another story to have to really understand everything from the full stack to the back end to DevOps if you don't do it all the time. Because if we're writing like Java and Spring all the time, and you just kind of dabble in front end here and there, it's hard to remember all that stuff and like get back to it. Same with DevOps. I've never kind of been good at all the DevOps stuff. So I'm thankful for all the folks out there that are really good at DevOps, and I can lean on them for that. It really depends on what you want to be a full stack developer for. Is it, I want to get a job as a full stack developer? Then yeah, I'd just say knowing enough to be dangerous, understanding the full software development lifecycle, how to build front ends, some of the latest front end trends, like the different component frameworks out there. Pick one. You don't need to know all of them because they usually translate over. HTMX is a new thing. Being able to build, you could build full stack apps in Spring with templates like JTE or Timeleaf, right? Being proficient on the back end and just knowing enough about DevOps. So if there is a problem, you kind of know where to go. So I hope that answered your question. Hello, George. Hello from Pakistan. Awesome. Hello. Thanks for joining. You are doing great. Hello, sir. I am joining from Bangladesh. Awesome. Thank you for joining. Hello from Ukraine. Hello to you. Small question. Do we have any options to create AI agents in Java? Yes. So this is a new thing on my radar. Agents are really starting to get a lot of attention. They are going to be very relevant over the next, year, 1 to 2 years. You'll hear a lot of the big companies talking about them now. I know Salesforce has pivoted to a whole bunch of AI agents. I just saw Microsoft had a keynote the other day and they were talking about AI agents. It really depends on how you define agents too. That kind of agentic workflow, like, hey, I have all these small little kind of AI applications that do their own task and then hands it off to the next one. That is on my radar. I'm going to be writing about that soon and giving us some options for doing that in Java and Spring. So stay tuned for that. How do you think AI will impact Java development? How do you think Spring AI will evolve? So AI is going to impact all development. I really can't sit up here and say with a crystal ball where we're going to be at, because this AI is moving fast, really fast. I don't think we've ever seen a technology like this evolve like it has. So think back to some of the biggest things that have happened in our industry, the internet itself. The internet came out and, it was slowly adopted. It took time for that to happen. Mobile development took time for that to happen. AI is just running really, really fast right now. So I think that as a developer, you need to be aware of it. You need to be able to leverage it. You don't need to go all in on it. I always tell people, for me right now, it's not going to replace developers. It's not there yet. Who knows where it gets? I mean, it's like I said, it's doing some crazy things. But I am, for one, not scared of that. I know I'm not a full-time developer every day like you guys, but I'm, for one, not scared of that because I have always been someone who is willing to adapt to whatever situation I'm in. If AI took over all of development, there's something else humans will need to be involved in to kind of help that. So I'm always someone who's able to adapt. And that's one of the reasons I started learning AI maybe a year ago, is I saw this as something that I'm going to need to know. So my advice is to get on the AI train, learn about it, learn the basics. I have let me share my other screen. So here is my website, but I also have Beehive. No, that's not the one. BS. So let's move that over here. So I also have a newsletter at Bite-Sized AI where I'm kind of writing about general AI. If it doesn't have to do with programming in Java and Spring, Those are over here. So if you're interested in more like learning just kind of top level stuff, I have some interesting articles on here, like how to talk to robots. I thought that was a really good title. Just in general, like prompt engineering, why it's important. So I won't plug this a lot, but that's there if you want to learn general AI stuff. But again, as a developer, it should be a tool in your tool belt. I have found tasks that used to take me days cut down to hours because I can iterate fastly. I can go use one of these LLMs and kind of come up with an idea. It helps me a lot in building tutorials. Creating videos for me has always been a huge process because I have to come up with a demo first. So it always starts with some code. And similar to the full stack, right? Like if you don't work in something every day, it's hard to like kind of remember all of the things you need to know. So like I've done a lot of Spring Security, but if I don't do it for like the last 3 months, I run off to Claude and say, hey, I'm trying to build this like security application in Java and Spring, and this is what I want the demo to look like. And I get some, assistance. It's not writing everything for me, but it kind of kicks me off and running, gets me off and running quickly. So it's a great tool to have in your tool belt. Once you really start to refine that process, and we can go through some of the things that I use today if you're interested, but I would say as a developer, it should be a tool in your tool belt. Even if you're not writing AI applications using Java, using Spring AI, that's okay. Maybe you're not building those types of applications yet, but AI in general should be a tool in your tool belt. Otto, greetings from Ukraine. Love your content. Thank you very much, Otto. Appreciate it. Oh, this is a good one. Is Java dead in the USA? No. Java dies every 5 years. People say it's old. People say, its time has passed, and that is not the case. Java is very much well and alive. So Spring, it's a great time to be a Spring developer, as my friend Deshaun says. It's a great time to be a Java developer. We get a new version of Java every 6 months. We get a new version of Spring every 6 months. There are so many great projects in the Java ecosystem happening right now. If you're not aware of them, check out some of the conferences and check out some of the talks. Debugging just happened. Check that out. No, Java is not going anywhere. It's a great programming language. If you want to have a job and you want to keep a job, enterprises are built on Java. It's not going anywhere. Holly, thank you for your Spring Boot. Greeting from Argentina. Awesome. Thank you. Why not use Spring Boot to play music on stream? I'm sure you know the way. Yeah. It's not so much the technology. I'm streaming it from a browser, but for whatever reason, the software that I'm using doesn't want to pipe it into the broadcast. But we'll figure that out for the next time. No big deal. Let's see. I have one potentially good idea for the next video. How do you configure your environment when you have multiple projects in different Java versions, when you need multiple IDE instances for dev? So how do you configure your environment when you have multiple projects in different Java versions? So this comes back to the idea of like multi-module projects. I think like, I'm just thinking of like, okay, I have a gateway application. I have a couple of microservices. I can bring those all into a single project in something like IntelliJ. And each project runs on its own. So you should be able to configure the version of Java that it's using. Let me know if you have given that a try and if you're running against anything, because I've certainly run multiple projects before, so that should be doable. This is a bit off topic. Have you ever tried Rust? And if so, did you enjoy it? I have not. I know Rust is a kind of popular language, especially for building kind of CLI applications. To be honest, I've looked at it before. It looks a little confusing. I know it's like one of those harder languages to learn. At least that's what I've heard. But no, I have nothing against it. I hear it's a great language. And I do encourage learning a different language and something that's completely different. Rust is completely different than the things that I do every day. So yeah, I would love to learn that. I just have so much on my plate. But yeah, I am not, I used to be early on in my career, I used to be this is the framework I use and this is the language I use and nothing else is great. This is the greatest thing ever. And now that I've kind of done this for a while, every framework and languages out there is really great. Yes, even PHP. I have no problem with anything because they all have their different uses. They all have their different communities around it. And I guess really what you can ask yourself is, why do you want to learn that? Do you want to try to get a job using it? Great. That's a great reason to use it. Do you have some specific use cases that Rust can solve that will help you out? Great. That's even better. If you're just learning a language to learn it, it's tough. You got to have some motivation behind it. If you want to build some CLI app and Rust is a great language for that, more power to you. So yes, I always encourage that. Let me try and mess around with this. We want to meet the Spring Core team. Please bring them on your channel or on the Spring Developer channel. Awesome. Yes. So if you are not aware, let me close this out. Let's go to springofficehours.io. So if you're not aware, we do a live stream every Monday from 1 to 2 usually. And we have a lot of guests on there, and we've had some of the Spring Core team on here. So last week, we had Cornel on from the Spring Cloud Stream, Spring Cloud team. Spring streaming data with Chris Bono. He is on the Spring team. We have some really interesting episodes coming up. I'm going to talk with Rawson and Brian from the Spring Core team who work on web and GraphQL. I'm really interested in talking to them about GraphQL, getting kind of caught up where that project is because I'm a big fan of that. We also have a really special guest coming up in November for the release of Spring Boot 3.4. So be on the lookout for that. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my newsletter. I'm always kind of talking about what we're up to on Spring Office Hours. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Hi, Dan. I'm from India and eagerly waiting for your detailed course on microservices. I don't have any courses coming out on microservices, but on YouTube, it is one of my things I want to get to. So microservices, I put another thumbs up for that. You know, one of the things I've wanted to do for a while now, maybe we could do this on stream one day, is I have this list of way I manage the content that I'm working on. I want to put something on my website where I can feed in all that data from Notion and I can have people go vote on it. So I get a better idea of what you guys are interested in me creating content around next, because I get messages from all over the place: email, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. Hey, create a tutorial on this. And I'd really like a place where we can kind of have a voting style system. So maybe I'll put that on the agenda as something we can kind of do on stream one of these days. Hello, Dan from Colombia. Hello, thank you for joining. Hello, sir. Love from India. Oh, man, I almost got to India this year, but had so many problems with getting a visa approved, and I ended up not being able to go. Hopefully I can go next year. I've always wanted to visit India. I hear it's a great place, and I'm a big fan of Indian food, so I would love to go try some real Indian food. Yeah, so hopefully I can make it there one day soon. Hello from Croatia. Hello. Hello, Dan. I've been waiting for you to make a tutorial about Spring Modulith. Yes, the problems that it solves. Yeah, that's, again, another thing on my radar that I want to get out there. I've been watching a lot of tutorials on that. If you want to, go out to YouTube, look for the past Spring one, the past Spring I/O. My coworker Cora has done some presentations on Spring Modulith. Obviously, Ollie from the Spring team, who is the creator and maintainer of that project, has done some really great presentations on that. So in the meantime, go check that out. But yes, I am going to get to that. It is a fascinating project. Not only because it gives you like, hey, this is how a well-architected project can look. I think one of the cool things is it has all these like verifications in there. So you can say like run a test and say, is my project architecturally sound, if you will. So yeah, really excited about that project as well. Wow, so many people here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Hi, Dan Sampson from the UK. Hello. Can you please teach us what is OpenID SSO stuff from Spring Security? Yeah, it is. We asked a question the other day. We were interviewing Nelson Jalalo from Amigos Codes. I said, what is it? If you had to pick like one project that's like the hardest to learn, what would you pick? He said, Spring Security. And I completely agree. It is like, security is tough. There's just so many things that go into security. So you really can't just learn all of Spring Security. You kind of got to learn it for like the use case that you need it for, and then kind of branch out from there. So yes, OpenID, SSO, Spring Security. I'm going to show you something today, working on another tutorial that includes some of that. So we'll get to that in a second. Hey, Dan, I started learning Spring a couple months ago. I'm starting to build some web apps with it. Let me do something here. Let me pipe this text a little bit down. How do I do that? Text margin. A little large. Let's try that. There we go. That's a little bit better. Hey, Dan, I started learning Spring a couple months ago. I'm starting to build some web apps with it. Great. Do you have any suggestion of important projects to build that will give me important knowledge? So again, I always like to work backwards from this. When you say important, what is your end goal, Pedro? Why are you learning this? Are you learning this for a potential job? Are you learning this for your current job? Are you learning this just because you like to hack and tinker around? So kind of answer that question first, and then I work backwards from that. So let's say my goal with learning Spring and building web apps was to get a specific job. I would go in my area and look, well, not even these days, right? You can remote work these days. I would find the different jobs out there that I was interested in getting and look at their tech stacks and say, what are they using? So they're building web apps. They're using Java. They're using Spring MVC. Maybe they're using Timeleaf to build full stack applications, right? If that's the case, those are the technologies I would focus on. And then what do I need to look? What projects can I build to get better at this? So I always suggest building projects that you're interested in. Like if you're not somebody who cooks all the time, don't go build a recipe catalog because it's not interesting to you. I've always hacked on my own website. I love building like my personal website because I love tinkering with it. So you got to find things that are interesting to you and kind of build from that. Also, don't try and go big or go home, right? Like, don't go build the next Facebook. Build a little widget of Facebook, like a place where you can like post some text and like have it show up, and build on that. So I would just try to keep doing that, keep finding little projects. There are places out there we can kind of get project ideas. Go ask, one of the LMs out there. So I'm a big fan of Claude. I use it for everything. Let's go ahead and see what we can do here. So I am learning Spring Boot to build web applications. What are some projects I can build to get better at this stack? Whatever, right? So let's see what the LLM overlords give us. So there's a to-do list. That's kind of basic. That might be boring. A blogging platform. That'd be fun if you want to like start your own blog. An e-commerce store. Cool. Social media platform. Task management like Trello, like Jira or Trello. So So again, don't go big or go home, right? Like building a task management system like Jira or Trello is going to be really hard. I really like the idea of building the next Trello. Can you give me some ideas to get started with a MVP, so a minimal viable product? And so it just breaks it down into manageable pieces. And there you go. So now I have like just the bare minimum of things that I can do to get started with. And then always iterate on this. So I can see they're using JPA here. Maybe I use something like Spring Data JDBC or just not even Spring Data. Maybe I want to get better at just writing my own SQL, so I can strip that out. This is an iterative process, but this is a really good place to kind of like get started and going with it. Hi, Dan. I wish to have a course or a tutorial on microservices using Spring. So this is where the leaderboard, the voting board would come in. I see I have two votes for microservices now. So that's good to know. Could you give me small advice regarding how to identify memory leak in a Spring Boot application or a microservices architecture? Whew, that's a loaded question. Observability is the number one thing. So if you're just pushing your application out there into the wild and have no metrics or logging, it's going to be really hard to do. So I would say the first thing to do is make sure you have like the Spring Boot actuator. So when we add a dependency here, we want to add it, and we want to include the Spring Boot actuator. This is going to help us start collecting those metrics, give us insight into our application of what's going on. And then you want to be able to visualize this, right? So there are a bunch of different ways to visualize it. You can use something like Prometheus and Grafana to start to collect those metrics and find out where that's happening. So that's one way to do it. There are also some tools in the Java world for kind of diagnosing a like single app and trying to find out what's wrong. But you really have to have some insight into what's going on in your applications. Without it, it's going to be really hard. Let me see. Let me try to get these out of the way. This is bothering me. Let's put this one up for now because I like these images. What would be your suggestion for a new developer? Really depends on your passions. You got to follow your passions. I mean, you can get in. I've said this before. There are different reasons to get into development. If money is one of them, completely fine with that. I saw it as an opportunity when I was younger to have a good career. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody wants a good career, right? But you also have to like kind of follow your passions. What are you interested in doing? So I would say start there. You gotta, if you don't know what you're interested in doing, then try a bunch of different things. Try, if you're into back-end development, try Java, try another language. If you're into front-end development, try a couple different component frameworks out there. Find what you're interested in. Maybe you're interested in something completely different, like game design. You have to dabble and find out what you're interested in, because as great of a career this can be, it is a continuous learning career. You have to be always learning, always be curious, always want to learn more. This industry is not something where you just kind of learn something and then move about your day. You're always learning, and it's always easier to learn if you're really interested in what you're learning. So I would say that find your passion and just dig in on that. Hey, how long have you been programming in Spring? So I'm trying to think about this. My first conference was in 2015. That was when Spring Boot came out, or at least announced, right? Well, 2013, and then 2015 is when I was there. 2012, maybe. I was doing some projects in Spring Framework without Spring Boot. So yeah, probably 2012. So yeah, we're coming up on 12 years now. I started in Java 23 years ago. I was doing struts back then. Then I got into some web development using something called Cold Fusion, which runs on the JVM. At the time, it was just so much easier to like get stuff done. So I was a big fan of Cold Fusion for a while. And then we did Groovy. We moved a whole platform over to like Groovy and Grails. So I was in that world for a little while. But yeah, I like to say that I've been on the JVM my entire career, because that is not a lie. That is very true. What is your advice for a Java and Spring Boot developer at this moment from your perspective? What skills or areas should I focus on to stay relevant and grow my career? Ooh, that's a great question. I'd say from a Java and Spring Boot developer standpoint, let's start with Java. You don't need to like know everything, but staying up to date with some of the new things that are coming out, even if you're not able to use them right away at your job. So I know a lot of organizations are behind the 8 ball when it comes to upgrading. So if your organization's still on like Java 8 or Java 11, that's okay. You know, I get it. But that doesn't mean you don't need to like know what's out there. So staying up to date. So JDK 21 brought virtual threads to the JDK. And that was, for me, I think a really important release. And so just knowing what virtual threads are, how they can impact your organization, being able to talk to your managers about that. So I would say on the JDK, even if you're not using it at work, stay up to date with a lot of the new features. You don't need to be an expert in them, but just try and stay up to date with them. Same with Spring. You know, we get a new release every 6 months. What's new in every version, just try and stay up to date with it. Again, you don't need to be an expert. Know what's available to you if you are on that version and how it could help your organization out. What skills or areas should I focus on? So from a Spring perspective, I would say, again, depending on the outcome that you're looking for, like what's most important to your organization, you know, those are things you can focus on. If you're always looking to like level up and move to a new job, move to a new company, start looking out there on the LinkedIn, on the recruiting boards, and find out what people are looking for as far as skills go. Microservices is still very big, but we also are building, Modulith again. So check out Spring Modulith. If microservices are a thing, make sure you're staying up to date on that if that's what you want to learn. Obviously, AI for me is a big topic these days. Being able to leverage AI as a tool in your tool belt, great. Also, if you're going to start building intelligent applications where we incorporate AI, whether it's chatbots or document summarization or being able to bring your own documents, how do you do that in Java? Spring AI obviously is a really good choice there. So those are a few things that I have my eye on right now, and I think you should too. Wow, so many questions. Thank you guys. So many people here. Thank you. Hey, Dan, I've just finished my computer science degree. Congratulations, and hit my first job as a junior backend developer. Congratulations, Pedro. That's awesome. We were talking on a stream the other day, and I remember I went to a 2-year technical college. I learned Java in there. I didn't know anything about Java when I was there, but I learned Java. I don't know that I'd say I learned it. I was taught Java. There's probably a big difference there. But I remember just being lost. I was like, is this another like language? It really is. What are you talking about? I remember just being like, gosh, I can't even learn this. How do people like learn multiple languages and multiple technologies? And all I can say is like everybody, well, not everybody, but 99% of people who get into this field go through that. It's okay to be lost. Have some patience. Trust the process. Always be curious, as I say. Keep learning. And if you're interested in this and want to keep learning and want to keep getting better, you can. I still am not. I was never the smartest person. I was never fast at learning, but I was persistent. I said, this is what I want to do. I am going to get good at this. And the only way I can get good at this is I got to keep learning. I got to keep putting it into practice. And I got to keep pushing myself. And I changed jobs a lot because I wanted to push myself and be around smarter people in different organizations. You know, they always say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I always feel like that. So I always want to be surrounded by people that I can learn from. So congrats, Pedro. That's awesome. Hey, Dan, can you make a video on CPU and memory profiling using Actuator or other tools for Spring Boot? I will add that to my list. I am not an expert on that. I will tell you that right now. But I have a suggestion list, and I will add it to that. Are you able to guide me to some good videos to learn Spring Boot and Open API integration? Not something we talk about. I'm going to need it for my job. Sorry for sending 2 different messages. No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. Learn Spring Boot. Let's talk about a couple resources for that. So first is spring.academy, really great resource for this. If you don't know, this is free. This is from Broadcom, the company I work for, the stewards of Spring. We have an academy here where there's a lot, it's all free content. So you don't need to pay for any of this. You can go in and check out some of the guides, but there are also courses. So, hey, I want to build a REST API with Spring Boot. You can go through the course. There's just a lot of great content in here. So I would go in here and try to learn some of that. Pick your kind of path and what you want to learn there. Obviously, I'm gonna say my YouTube channel. You can come over here to the blog. There's a bunch of information on here. But my YouTube channel, actually, if we go to courses here, my 2 big videos on Spring Boot are here. So building web apps with Spring Boot, I did this for Free Code Camp. This came out really well. And then the Spring Boot crash course that I have is doing insane numbers right now. I am still trying to figure out what is going on with this because it's always done well. But this month alone, it has like 80,000 views on YouTube. So all of a sudden, it's just like really picked up, which obviously I'm excited about. I like to make these videos for people to watch them. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I have some theories, but I don't have any data to back that up yet. So yeah, I would say those 2 and Spring Academy. As far as Open API, I would go ahead and search YouTube for some of the conference talks out there. I know Dr. Dave Sayer's done some talks on that. I would try to find his talks. They're really good. Off the top of my head, I don't know of any other, but try to find some recent conferences that have some talks on that. And those, I love conference talks because they're not overwhelming. You go to some of these course platforms, it's like, here's 12 hours on how to learn. Like, I don't have 12 hours to learn. I have an hour, if that. And I put it on 2x speed and I go, okay, just give me the overview of Open API. What do I need to get started with? Use that, the documentation, and I think that'll be enough to kind of get you up and running. Thanks again for joining me, everyone. We are just streaming and chilling. I have some things to share, but right now I'm just answering questions because there are so many lovely people in this stream. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to hang out with me. All right, here's another one. I am a junior Java developer and want to create a web shop using Spring Boot, HTML, CSS, MySQL database. What is the best way to start? So this is good. A lot of people come to me and say, how do I learn Spring? And that is an impossible feat at once, right? I always tell people, you got to pick your lane. Like, what do you want to learn what do you want to learn Spring for? Because it can do so many different things, and Java can do so many different things. But if you have a narrow focus, like you do, this is good because you can really start to you have a clear path on what you want to do. So, one, start building. So go learn Spring. Again, Spring Academy. These two particular courses I have are building web apps in Spring Boot. So that will teach you how to get up and running with Spring Boot, connecting to a database, getting data out of there, displaying it on a page. I think we use REST APIs there, but if you're not, so then the next question is, okay, do you want to build a full stack application in Spring where I have just one single app that I'm going to deploy to the web somewhere? If so, then you can build that in Spring using template engines like Timeleaf, like JTE that I've been covering lately, like Groovy, Mustache. There are a couple different templating engines out there. Or are you going to build the front end in something else? So I'm going to use, one of my favorites is Vue. My website's written in Vue and Nuxt. And maybe I'm going to connect to my backend Spring app using REST APIs. So kind of figure out those decisions first, and then you can kind of pick your way. But there's not, I don't want to like make this seem like easy, because it's not, but you've narrowed your path. There's not a whole lot of things that you're going to have to learn. There will be some things that come up that you'll have to understand. But again, I think this is where LLMs come in really handy, because before you'd have to go like search around Google and search Stack Overflow and kind of dig through the weeds to find some answers. And I feel like if you ask the right questions, you get some answers pretty quickly. So let me just give you an example. Say you were building out this shop and you came across a problem and you were like, okay, I am contacting this API, but I don't want to link my credentials. How can I create an environment variable in Spring Boot, right? So now I don't want to leak my API credentials when I check this into GitHub. How can I do that? So right away, it's going to give us some ways to do that. So hey, set my API key to this, and set my secret to this, and my DB URL to this. And then you can go ahead and export those as environment variables. You can, in like IntelliJ, you can set an environment variable. So you can start to answer some of these questions that come up while you're building this. So hopefully those are some resources. But yeah, I think that's a really good way. And like I said, because you have that kind of narrow path, I think that's great. Hey, Dan. Hello from Maritas. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. In what case will you choose Spring Modulith instead of jumping straight to microservices? Really great question. I don't know if I have it on my wall over here. There are some really great books on architecture. Yeah, so Neil Ford and Mark Richards and my former coworker, my good friend Nate Shuda, has some white papers on this as well, on architecture and some presentations. But this is really an architecture question, right? It's hard to see when a microservice is the right choice if you haven't kind of been down that road before. So usually a good rule of thumb is to start with a modulith, because it's easier to go the other way than it is to come back the other way. So you start with a modulith, you build this entire system, and then you start realizing, oh man, the ordering system is like really getting hit. This thing needs to scale at a different rate than the rest of the application. or the front end should really be separated out because this thing is changing all of the time while the back end is not, and we really need that changeability. We need to be able to deploy that often. I would say starting with a Modulith is probably a good way to start. And then recognizing that there are things in your system that could probably benefit from being split out, then you can start doing that if you ever need to do that. Microservices are great, but with that complexity, there can be a lot of things that you just don't know until you've seen that, right? So microservices are great, independently deployable. You have these kind of domain-specific things, right? But they add a lot of complexity. And with that complexity, there are a lot of moving parts and things you need to account for. So, howdy, Mahadi. How do you manage your time in your daily life? Many of us waste time on social media and other distractions. What suggestions do you have for improving time management? Great question, and something I'm very interested in. I am a very detailed person when it comes to time management. I have, so I kind of break my work and my personal stuff up different, but from work perspective, I have goals. So here are my yearly goals. How do those yearly goals break down into quarters? How do those quarters break down into a month? What am I focused on this month? So I really start there at a high level overview and then break it down as much as I can. Every week I have things that I want to accomplish. I say, hey, Sunday I sit down for a few minutes and go, what am I going to get done this week? Now that changes, right? Things come up. But these are the things I want to accomplish. So I know when I sit down on today's Wednesday, here are the things that I want to get to. And I am constantly looking at my calendar. I have a different calendar and Notion for all this stuff, but I'm constantly looking at that like, okay, get going, Dan. These are the things that you wanted to accomplish today and you have not done anything yet. So we've got to get moving on that. Yeah. When it comes to social media, the phone. So I'm not doing a very good job of this now, but I try and plug this in away from me, off to the side, so that I'm less tempted to like pick it up and look at notifications. I've turned almost all notifications off on my phone because they are distracting. I'm a sucker for Twitter. I spend too much time on it, so you're not the only one. It's not easy. I think there are browser plugins that allow you to like say, hey, during this period of time, I'm YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is, they won't load on your machine. So there are some things you can do there as well. Like any habit, it takes time. So pick out one thing. Today, turn off the notification on your phone. Next week, try not browsing Twitter for an entire day. Yeah, I would say you're not alone. I think we're all in that same boat. So don't be discouraged. Just try and do it one little improvement at a time. Sid says Rust is for systems programming. Zig may be more accessible instead for systems programming. All right. Hi, Dan. After using Spring Boot virtual threads on facing Oracle database connection issues. I mean, connections not released or closed properly in virtual threads. Any way to debug this? Whew. So I would say I would look at the code that is, I'm trying to think here, because when you use virtual threads in Spring, that from a database perspective should be taken care of. So I'm thinking of like, so we handle a lot of those, creating those virtual threads for you. Like if you come in on a controller during a request, and we want to send something out in that request, that is wrapped in a virtual thread. So we know that like that's not getting blocked. But if you write that same code, say in a command line runner, that is your own code talking to an API, you need to create that virtual thread. So it's not always in every single place those virtual threads are available. So that's one thing. I would just do some logging to make sure the virtual thread is being used, and for some reason you're not using a system thread there. Connections not released or closed properly. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I'm sorry. Any way to debug this? No, but I'm going to mark that down, and I'll see if I can dig into that a little bit further. Spring Modulith, a mature and production ready tool. It is 1.0. It's like 1.3. So I would say yes. Spring.io. Projects, all projects, Modulith, right? And here we are at, why am I not seeing the version? Oh, 1.2.3, right. So yeah, it is ready. It is production ready, yes. Hi, Andy, you have a crash course on Java Spring Boot and microservices. I do not, but that's the third request in just this stream alone, so might have to bump that up the list. Why is JTE Java Template Engine not picking up like Timeleaf? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. Timeleaf has been around forever. I don't know how long Java Template Engine has been around. I know my friend Thomas has been a big fan of it for a while. I just got hip to it because we added it as a starter on the Spring Initializer. So if you go in here, you can now add that as a template engine. I've been doing a bunch of content on it. I've really enjoyed it. In fact, we're going to look at an example today in a second. Oh, there we go. Let me make sure that's off. What was the wifey saying? She just ordered pizza for her classes. All right. We'll get into this in a second, but I really like this because at the top of the template, I know what parameters are available. And because of that, now I get some IntelliSense when I type authorities dot, right? Like I know that it's a collection of granted authorities. So I'm a big fan of JTE. I'm still pretty new to it, maybe a month in, but I'm a big fan of it. I don't know, give it time, or you don't need to. I would also say, like, I don't know if it's not picking up. Like, what are you gauging that by? But if you're interested in it, who cares what anybody else is doing? Go ahead and check it out. Thank you, sir. You are welcome. Thank you for the question. Yo, I was just looking through your videos for my school project and saw you were live. All right. How's everyone doing? Thanks for joining me. Yeah, I am. This was a stream and show. I was going to show off a couple of things that I had, but I've gotten so many great questions. I'm just kind of answering questions right now. I don't have my chill music. I will get that figured out for the next stream. But you guys have really showed up here. It made me realize that I need to do this more often. So we're going to stream a lot more. Hi, Dan. Any Spring Modulith course or video about when to choose Spring Modulith over microservices? I think I kind of answered that. There are some great courses, not courses. There are great presentations out there by Ali, the creator. He has both like our courses, and I know he's done some workshops at some different conferences, so check those out. And my coworker Cora has done some as well, so check those out. Thank you for your videos. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. You get views because you teach great. I appreciate that. We were talking about this on Spring Off Stars the other day with Amigos Codes, and I mentioned I've always felt like I was never the smartest person. I never learned fast. When people who were really smart tried to teach and like teach how they understand things, I always felt like that was over my head. So I know what it's like to be in that position. So a lot of the tutorials I build are very beginner focused, and they may be longer than they should be because I kind of do a lot of step-by-step processes. Like I don't gloss over things because I know I remember being in that situation where it's like, oh, go set up OAuth and then do this. It's like, wait a minute, how did you do that OAuth setup? Like, I need to know that stuff, right? So yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and I'm glad to hear that they're helping out. Hey. With so many things you're doing, I'm wondering, did you ever have problems with procrastination and lack of motivation? Absolutely. All these problems that you think you're having, I promise you most people have the same problems. We had one on getting distracted and now procrastination and lack of motivation. Yeah, absolutely. I have an expense report that I keep pushing back to the next week because I hate expense reports and I just don't want to do it. But at some point, I'm just going to have to dig down and do it. And yeah, I have so many things on my plate. I have to prioritize. Being able to prioritize is important, no matter how many, whether you have 10 things or 100 things on your plate. You got to be able to prioritize and say, what is important? I find that procrastination and lack of motivation happens later in a day too. So if you can get to work, whether it's waking up and going to your office or driving down to the office, if you can put those things front and center early in the morning, I find like that's easier to get done. So if I do those things that I didn't want to do, now I feel relieved. I can like do something that I want to work on now instead of having to do that thing that I've been putting on the back of the calendar. So yeah, no, you're not alone. It takes time. It takes practice. So keep at it. Any resources for the distributed distribution system? I'm guessing like distributed systems. So talking microservices, different architectures there. Books are a big one for me. Again, I have these for me are some really great books on kind of architecture and distributed systems. So Mark Richards, Neil Ford, I hope you can see that. That is one of my favorites on just kind of software architecture in general. They came up with a follow-up to that, which is software architecture, the hard parts. Sam Newman, this book's, I think, a little bit older. I don't know what the year this is. I think that was before this one, but just getting into microservices in general, building microservices, really good, great books. So yeah, those are some suggestions. I'm a big fan of O'Reilly, if you can't tell. I'm writing a book for O'Reilly, so exciting times about that. Let's see. Fundamentals of software engineering. There we go. So if you're interested in this will hopefully be coming out next year. So publication date is set as 2025, but there is an early release. So Nate Shuda and I are writing this book, my good friend Nate, from coder to engineer. So yeah, big fan of O'Reilly. If you want to go ahead and check that out, if you're on the platform, please do. We'd love your feedback. What skills or software would be good to develop after becoming proficient in Spring Boot? Again, I think we answered some of this earlier. If you missed that, go back. But yeah, it really just depends on what you're trying to do in your journey. Work backwards from that. If you're trying to get a job for a specific company and this is their tech stack. So I'll mention GraphQL because I was at Spring One. Some of our friends from Netflix were there presenting as well. I'm a huge fan of GraphQL. Not everybody loves GraphQL. That's okay. But if you want to go work at Netflix, better be pretty proficient in Java, Spring, and GraphQL. They use GraphQL everywhere. So if that's on your radar or another company that uses GraphQL is on your radar, that's something you should pick up. A lot of great resources for that out there. So kind of work backwards from that, I'd say. I'm a mid-level Spring Java developer. I want to strengthen myself in the area of data engineering, not data science. I'm quite confused because of so many subjects. Do you have a roadmap? I do not. I do not. When you talk about data engineering, what specifically are you trying to get better at? Just algorithms in general? I'm just a little confused on that. If you can clarify, I'd be happy to answer. Coder Lady, how are you? I got my first client as a freelancer. Yes. I'm using Spring Boot with MySQL and React for the front end. I need to learn Docker for the deployment. It seems complicated. So, yeah, it's one of those, again, there's so many things of being a full stack engineer. As Coder Lady said, she's building on the front end with React. She's building on the back end with Java and Spring Boot and MySQL. And now I got to learn this other thing. I got to deploy it using Docker. And that's a little bit confusing to me. So here's the good thing. So for those of you who don't know, for Docker, there's really two use cases for Docker, right? On one side, I can use something like Docker Compose to spin up a container where I don't want to set up MySQL on my local machine. When I download this project, I don't want to have to set up all these dependencies. I just want to run it. And so with Docker and Docker Compose, I can spin up a MySQL container. I can use it within a Spring app. None of that setup has to happen. The other part of this is I want to deploy this project, this application, to a container. And why would you want to do that? So if I want to deploy my Spring application to an environment where there's a JDK, I can simply create an executable jar, right? I can send that jar off to that environment, something like AWS, and I can run it there. But what happens if I want to deploy it to another environment where there's not a JDK or where maybe we're running Kubernetes, right? That's where being able to deploy a container is really great. And it's a repeatable environment, which is really important. So I'll say this. Deshaun and I talk about this a lot, but writing Docker files is not fun. So you have to start writing a Docker file. You have to figure out your base layer and figure out all the stuff that goes into writing a Docker file. The good news for you is if you're using Spring, you can take advantage of something called build packs. So at the end of the day, you can run a command in your Spring app and create a build pack, which will create basically a container for you. So let's take a look at that, spring.io. Let's go into projects, Spring Boot, learn, reference docs, packaging OCI images. Here's an example. So if you're using Gradle, boot build image. If you're using Maven, where's Maven? Publishing your application. So yeah, so there are different commands, whether you're using Maven or Gradle, to go ahead and create an image. So this is great because you don't have to write your own Docker image. You can just run this command and it will create an OCI image for you. And this is a very proficient container. It does some things that you wouldn't even know how to do if you were just getting started out writing a Docker file, right? So I would say check this out, especially if you're using Spring. But the nice thing about something like build packs is this is not Spring specific, right? So you could even package the React app as an OCI image too. So I would say check that out. How important are algorithms and the ability to solve them very quickly, considering the current situation with AI science? It makes development more aggressive, and we have to learn more deeply. Okay, so this is something that is near and dear to my heart. I have failed many interviews because I am not good at those leak code type problems. I I especially early in my career where I was like, I know how to type. I don't know how to draw on write on a whiteboard and like how to do this stuff. So I can tell you that I have never been really good at that. I didn't go, I think if you went to like a 4-year college and went through a pretty good curriculum at like a university, then you probably learned some of that stuff. You're way better at that than I am. But if you just went to a boot camp or a 2-year tech school like me, and you've never really needed to do it, then it's one of those skills. Again, if you don't do it all the time, then it's hard to master. And so somebody always says, like, how would you do a binary tree search in Java? I'd use the standard library. I'm not writing that myself. So yeah, I think it's there. Unfortunately, there's still going to be interviews where those types of questions come up. So if you're, again, working backwards, if your ultimate goal is to get a job somewhere where they test those types of, or where they have those types of interviews, then yeah, it's important to learn. It's important to understand them. It's important to practice them, go on the leak codes, the different apps out there that kind of walk you through those problems. It's important for that. On the job, at least in the things that I've been doing in my career, I've not had to do that at all. Like, I'm building web apps. I'm not building flight software that airports run on or medical devices where it's life or death. Like, I've just been building web apps my entire life. So in that case, I haven't really had to deal with that. Hope that helps. How many years did it take you to master Spring Boot? I don't think I've mastered it. So I'll let you know when I do. Like anything, I think years is a bad way to kind of judge that, because somebody could spend day in and day out learning it for 1 year and be really proficient at it. Somebody could spend 25% of their time and learn it over 3 to 4 years, right? So years is a hard number to put on that. Sorry. My wife is asking if I'm alive. I said I'm on a live stream. Yeah, what were we talking about? So yeah, I don't know that I've Spring Framework and Spring Boot are it can do so many things. So I have not mastered any of that yet. I've gotten proficient at doing certain things, sure, but I think what I've gotten really good at over my career, I'm 23, 24 years in now, is I've learned enough to where I know what questions to ask when I get stuck. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like when a Spring app fails for me, I know how to debug it. I know how to look through the logs, figure out what's going wrong, and then I know what questions to ask, to search for, to ask AI for. Those are the things that I think really help you out. So I think if you master something that seems like a finish line, and I don't think I'm anywhere near that yet. So I'm a Java and Spring developer with over 5 years of experience. Which topic would you like to be picked up to level up? Again, depends on, depends on what you're trying to learn, why you're trying to learn for. Obviously, as a Java and Spring developer, I said earlier, just staying up to date with the new things that are coming out, even if you're not necessarily using them, understanding them, what problems they solve, so that if you do come across that problem, there's a way to solve that. You do know that there's a way to write code that's more efficient or more easier to read, those kind of things. Fun. Looking forward to your future streams. I can't focus on my school project during watching, so I'll join you for another one. Have a good day. Thank you so much for joining us. And believe me, I get it. Yep. Your teaching process is so natural. Well done. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. You and your knowledge are always great. We love you from India. Thank you so much. Hi, Dan from Italy. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. You're such a great teacher. You guys are too nice. What is going on here? Did somebody pay you guys to show up here and say all these nice things? Designing data-intensive applications is a great book. There you go. So there's a good recommendation. Hi, Dan. In my last 2 job interviews, they started asking about my knowledge in AWS GCP. Is this the new base ground for a senior Java developer? So again, really depends on the position, right? Maybe you don't need to be an expert in it, but maybe you do need to like be able to understand it. And maybe you've deployed stuff to AWS before and you've been in the council and you know what some of the different services are and what problems they solve. So yeah, if those are things on the prerequisites of jobs that you're looking to get hired at, definitely worth trying to figure that out. Again, don't need to be an expert, but at least know enough to be dangerous. Could you please write these books on your website? Yes. I will get something out there. Oh, Pro Coder, my buddy, super chat. You sent me a super chat? What are you doing? You're knocking it out of the park, Dan. Nice studio revamp. You helped me get out of a ditch back in 2020. Awesome seeing you pass 60K. For those of you who don't know Pro Coder, that is my good friend Greg Turnquist. Definitely check out his channel. He's got a lot of great content on there. And he is a pro coder and a pro live streamer. So I'm just trying to be like Greg here. Do you use Kotlin with Spring? I hope Spring won't ditch Java. No, Spring is never going to ditch Java. There's no reason to. Do you use Kotlin? I do not, but it is one of those things that's on my radar that I want to get better at. I want to learn. I have not had a chance to do that yet, but I want to. I know there are a lot of great advantages to Kotlin. So yeah, I would say if it's something you're interested in learning, definitely check it out. I wonder how O'Reilly chooses the animals for the covers. What is the process? Oh, this is great. There is a process for this. But I don't know it. I know you can go read about it. I don't want to right now because I want to keep it a little bit of a mystery for me because we do not have an animal for our book yet. This is the temporary placeholder one. I believe, right? Yeah. Like the baby chick, it's not grown up yet. It's early release, right? I will kind of fill you guys in on that, at least for this book. I'll let you know how that process went. But I don't want to know that yet, so don't tell me. Hello from Romania. Thank you. I can set up Keycloak with Spring Boot and React for authentication and authorization, but can't map entities and its relationship and create a full stack application. Just create a tutorial on this. All right. I'm going to watch this back today and make sure I jot down all these suggestions. Thank you so much. Coder Lady, thank you. You are quite welcome. It's also true about the leak code problems. Never had something similar in my actual work in 10 years, right? Like you're just not being asked to do that. Maybe some people are. Some of the things that some of you really smart people out there are working on, I'm sure you've had to deal with it, but at least what I've been interested in, what I've been working on, I have not had to. How can I write a SOAP API that supports both protocol with the same endpoint? It's been a while, man, since I've used SOAP. Now, Pro Coder Greg Turnquist used to run one of the projects here dealing with SOAP. He may be a better person to ask. I am not sure on that. Our Oracle, let me go back to this because we see answering questions anyway. How do you, oh, no. We already did that one. How are Oracle Java certifications worth it? So here, I've given this take before, but in case you haven't heard that, my take on certifications are they're absolutely worth it to you. And what I mean by that is at the end of the day, a certification is just a piece of paper. Some positions require a certification. So if that's the case and you need to get a job and you need that certification, absolutely it's a no-brainer, right? I don't know that putting I have this certification on my resume might look good. Some employers might appreciate it. I've certainly done some hiring in the past where I've noticed those. And it's not the piece of paper, it's the journey to get there, right? Most of us can't just go sit down and take a certification test and get certified in whatever technology. You have to go through a process of really understanding everything that is going to be asked on that certification, understanding, going through like practice exams. And so through that process, you get a really good knowledge of the subject. So I think from that standpoint, I think certifications are absolutely worth it because you learn so much more. You have an end goal. It's easier to learn when you have some motivation behind it, when you have an end goal. Think about going to, I enjoy running, but I know not everybody does, right? And so what if I told you that you were going to go run for 30 days and not lose any weight? Not as fun, right? Not as motivating to go do that run every single day or every other day, right? But if you know at the end of that 30 days, you're going to be more fit, you're going to feel better, you're going to lose some weight, much easier to like get out there every day. And I think it's the same with this. Like at the end of the day, this certification may or may not get me a job, but I'm going to feel much better about myself and my knowledge on that particular subject. So yeah, I think certifications are great. I honestly don't have any. I don't have not a single certification, but I'm not against them. I think I've just, for no reason, gotten any. But I'm a big fan of the process. So, is virtual thread in Java 21 maturity? Yes. Ready for production. Absolutely take advantage of it. In Spring 3.2 and JDK 21, if you're building MVC, Spring Web, if you're building web applications that do blocking things in nature, talk to another API over HTTP, talk to a database, do some kind of file, input, output. Absolutely, you should be taking a look at that. Does Spring Cloud really work in production environments? I'm not going to read the rest of it, but for 1 second, yes, the answer is yes. I usually see Spring Boot implementations creating microservices, but not the full use of Spring Cloud. I guess so. So Spring Cloud is really, we actually did a Spring Off Stars on this. Yeah, so distributed applications with Spring Cloud. If you want to go take a look at this talk that Deshaun and I had, this is a good place to start. It kind of gives you an overview of Spring Cloud. You're not going to use everything in the Spring Cloud portfolio. There are all these different patterns that are going to come up when you're building distributed applications. And Spring Cloud has a lot of solutions for those problems. So no, you're not going to use everything Spring Cloud, but and it depends like what environment you're kind of deploying to as well. But it's not an all or nothing thing. So you don't need to like fully use Spring Cloud. But yeah, I think like you can create a microservice without putting in a gateway in front of it. There may be situations where that works, but a lot of times, hey, I want to have this gateway that sits in front of all my microservices to do all of those cross-cutting concerns like logging and security, right? I don't know that there's like a scorecard that says like we are cloud native. Well, there is a cloud native scorecard, but I could say that's something you can always kind of incrementally build. Yeah. Great videos. Thank you. How important is it to learn native Java application today? So like, are you talking about like native images with something like GraalVM? You know, Spring has that ability in it. So again, how important depends on your situation. Is your job using it? Are potential employers using it? Are you deploying stuff to the cloud? Are you building your own CLI tools? So I build some of my own CLI tools using Spring Shell. And for me, I need to know native applications because I want to deploy that as a native application on my machine. I don't want to have it start up. So native applications take up less memory, start up faster. Really important when we get into like some of the cloud architectures we're using. Maybe I'm writing functions as a service. Very important in that setting. Maybe I have an application that I can scale to 0, meaning I don't need to have this running 24/7. It just needs to take in a request, do some processing, and then go back to sleep. You could save a lot of money on that in your cloud bills, right? So it depends on the type of your work you're doing, but yeah, it definitely has its use cases. George, your content is very useful. Also follow you on LinkedIn. Keep up the good work, Dan. Thank you so much, George. I appreciate it. Love it. Keep up the great work. Pat says you can use the Maven Docker plugin. I think that's something we were talking about earlier. Do you love hearing music while coding? Yes, love it. What do you listen to lately? So I have this app called Fit Radio because I hate trying to build playlists of songs. And then I use Apple Music just because we're kind of hooked into the Apple ecosystem. We have Apple everything here. But I hate trying to build playlists, and I don't like listening to the same songs over and over again. And so these are like really good mixes of all these different genres. And I'm a big like hip hop, alternative, high energy stuff. So I'm a big fan of this. But yes, I can really get into a zone when I'm like listening to music, writing, coding. And I don't have anyone here right now, but I have distractions in the house that this helps me with. So, which day of November is Spring 6.2 going to be released on? All right. So if you don't know, calendar.spring.io. This will tell you when our releases are coming out. This is new. It used to have its own website. Now it's on the spring.io. Nice. So you can go in here and kind of look at the release calendar. So we're in October. Let's go look at November 6.2. November 14th, Spring.2.0 will be released. And then the following week, Spring Boot 3.4.0 will be released, which uses Spring Framework 6.2. What is the industry standard approach to implement authentication and authorization in a Spring Boot web app, auth2 or JWT? I don't know the answer to that. I've done a bunch of tutorials on both. I guess it just depends on your use. I always say it depends on what you're trying to do. If you just had like a single front-end application and a single Spring Boot app, JWT works fine. I think once you kind of move past that, maybe look to auth2, but I've done both. So. Totally agree with Dan's statement on certs. They are great motivational boosters for me. Awesome. And that's I think what they're there for. So, hello, Mr. Vega. That's my dad. Thank you, Mr. Vega. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for your efforts on creating content. The HTMX stuff is good. Is gold. Keep it up. Thank you. I appreciate that. I have a lot of fun with HTMX and JTE lately. So glad you guys are enjoying it. Is Spring MVC Gateway mature now? Yes, I believe so. It should be at a 1. So Spring MVC Gateways, MVC Gateway in a different project. So if you don't know what our friend here is talking about, is Spring Gateway has always been built on Spring Cloud, Spring Webflux, right? This project aims on top of Spring Webflux or Spring MVC. So it's always been built on Webflux because the idea of taking in a request and routing that to another service just made sense for Webflux, right? It's non-blocking, it's asynchronous. We don't have to hold up threads, right? But since the inception of virtual threads, and now that that's in Spring Boot 3.2, Spencer and the team created Spring Web MVC or Spring Gateway built on MVC. But yeah, I think as far as I know, should be mature and production ready. How can Java devs should upskill themselves in AI, Gen AI? Great question. So again, I think I talked about this earlier, but in AI in general, just being able to leverage AI as another tool in your tool belt, being able to it's not enough to go to ChatGPT and type in a question and get a response. There there's some things you can understand. Again, I'll kind of point back to my other newsletter, Bite-Sized AI. Prompt engineering is a big skill to have. I hate that term. I hate prompt engineering. It makes it seem like elite. It's not. It's just learning how to effectively communicate with AI, how to ask the right questions. There are also some techniques with like setting system level instructions, which you can do. But being able to effectively communicate with AI to get the right answers out, and being able to understand that the first question is probably not going to get you the answer that you want. It is an iterative process. So being able to do that. So yeah, in that sense, being able to leverage it as a tool in your developer tool belt is important. And then, hey, as a Java developer, if I want to build AI-powered applications, even if you're not doing it in your organization now, start tinkering. If it's something you're interested in, sign up for an API key with OpenAI, with Google Gemini, with Anthropic's Claude. You can talk to those REST APIs with just a curl command or using the JDK's HTTP client. In fact, I did a video on this lately. So if we go to videos, AI for Java developers, we talked about how to get started with that and then how to gradually move into something like Spring AI, which solves a lot of problems. So yeah, I would say start tinkering, start asking questions, start learning some of that stuff, because I got to imagine it's going to, if your organization's not already asking you how we can incorporate AI into your applications, they're going to be soon, because AI is not only a powerful tool, but it also helps, it makes investors happy. So your organization's probably trying to find a way to get that in front of investors. Spring AI with Ollama. Can you use more than one model, both Llama 3.2 and Llama 3.1, for instance, within the same app? Yes. So do I have an example of that? No. So what you're really asking is, actually, so I do have a video on using multiple LLMs. So this video will go through how to like configure 2 LLMs. So I could say, I could have a REST controller, and then let's actually see if we have the code for this. So I could have 2 controllers in here. I have an Anthropic chat controller and an OpenAI chat controller. And so one of these controllers are good for talking to OpenAI. One of these are good for talking to Claude. Both of those are in my application. It's really the front end's job to figure that out now, right? So maybe I have this text box, and then I have a dropdown that says pick which LLM you want to use. And when they click Anthropic and they type in a query, I'm sending it to that particular controller's endpoint, right? So yes, you can use multiple LLMs. The front end would kind of decide on which endpoint you want to go to. I have just started experimenting with Spring AI and really liking it. Me too. I'm a big fan. I'm really bullish on it. I just enjoy working with it. I enjoy that it gives you the flexibility of talking to different LLMs without rewriting your code base. And I like just how easy it makes everything. Like I want to turn a response from an LLM into a type. Can quickly do that. I want to use RAG. I want to have support for a vector database. I want to do some similarity searches over that. It just makes everything so easy. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I've been looking at the debug logs for Spring AI, and every call to the chat model, the system prompt shows up. Is that normal behavior? Every call to the chat model, the system prompt shows up. Are you including a default system prompt? So you can come in and say like, I don't have it in front of me, but here you can say this.chat client. You could say chat client.default system and have that come up. But I'm not sure if you're doing that or not. So no, I'd have to look at that and see what you're doing there. I request for a video on Spring AI and Tika. Yeah, that'd be great. We can do something on that. Are there jobs where you only have to use Spring Security? Only? No. There may be jobs where you have to be more proficient in it than others. Maybe they have a security team that strictly works on security across different apps. But no, I don't know of any. I could be wrong there. But I wonder why you asked that question. It's something you need to learn. It's something you should learn. But there's a lot to learn there. Yeah. Yes, I have a default system prompt. So yeah, if you have a default system prompt, this is saying every time I make a call with this chat client, this is the system prompt you're going to include. Wow, still so many people here. Streaming for an hour and a half now. This has been fun. I wish I could have gotten the music to show up, but an hour and a half of answering questions. That was fun. Let's see. Let's get rid of this and this and this and this and this and this and this. I'll just quickly show you what I'm working on for another tutorial. Again, I don't know when this one's going to come out. One of the questions I got was, let's switch over. Yeah, let's do that one. One of the questions I got, I've been doing a lot of videos on Java Template Engine lately, and somebody says, does this work with Spring Security? And yeah. So I wanted to put together a basic Spring Security application that uses Java Template Engine. So I have this dashboard, and the dashboard is kind of the piece that is locked down. So to get to the dashboard, you have to be logged in. So we have some security config around that. We're basically saying, hey, we can permit all, but the dashboard itself is going to be locked down. Although I don't know why. Did I change something? Yes, any other request is authenticated. Yeah, so home or login, you don't have to be authenticated, but any other request, you're authenticated. So I wanted to have an example where we could have a login screen, a custom login screen in Java Template Engine with OAuth 2. So we're using OAuth 2 login as well. And yeah, so there's like a default template here. There's some pages. There's a login page that has both Google and GitHub as authenticators, and then you can log in with username and password too. So I think we've set up a default user, so admin and admin123. And yeah, if we look at the application.yaml, we have Google and GitHub as OAuth 2 clients. So let's run this real quick. And so we go to a login, and now we can log in with a bunch of different ways. So we can say admin123, and it says, all right, here's you, welcome admin, username is admin, here's your roles. I can log in as Google, continue, and here is your username. In this case, it's my email address. Here are the roles we've given you. And we can log in as GitHub. So yeah, put that together. I'm working on finishing up the README for this because, you know, one of these days I got to put together a video of my process for building out some of these tutorials, because it may seem like I just push a video. There's so much more to it. We start with just the code. So right now the code's working. Then I really want to build out a README. I've been using AI a lot for this lately, putting together documentation on, like, if you came across this repo, how can you get started with it? For this one, it's particularly important if you've never signed up for auth credentials with Google or GitHub. There's a lot of information in there on how to do that. Yeah, so once we get this working, push this to GitHub. Now we have the basis for the tutorial. Then I got to go through and basically write an agenda of what I want to do in the tutorial. Then I have to sit down and record it. So I record it. Then it's got to get edited. Then that once it's edited, I can publish that to YouTube, although I push it up to YouTube. Then I have to get the transcription of the video, because I use that transcription to then help me write a title and a description for the video. I also use that transcript and that README to go help me generate social media posts. So for Twitter, for our Facebook group, if you don't know, we have a Spring Developers Facebook group. For Twitter, for LinkedIn, and not just once. I'd like to create a couple of those and schedule those out for later. Then I can actually, then I go ahead and I've been generating blog posts for my blog for those videos. So if you look at the blog, you can come in and see, hey, this is the video that we posted yesterday. And I use the video transcription. I use the README. I use any other context that I have that I've written to go ahead and generate this, mainly as another way to find this video. Some people like to just quickly read through this. So, and then I think that's it. And then it's on to the next one. So there's a lot that goes into creating a simple video, if you guys didn't know. Let me go back. Dan, please can you explain what type of building service layer is commonly used in enterprise simple domain model, all logic in services, rich domain logic in entities, or in the middle? I'd say people use different approaches. So we definitely see a lot of service by layer out there. So everything's in a controller, everything's in a model, or everything's in a service. But I've also done some videos on feature by layer, feature or service. Why am I stuck on that? Feature. I don't know why I'm having I'm blocked up here. Putting everything in packages by feature. So package by layer, package by feature. So, hey, everything revolving around a user lives in the user package. And this helps with a lot of things because you don't have to make everything public. When you split it up into different layers, controllers, services, models, a controller is going to have to talk to a service layer. A service layer is going to have to talk to a repository. Everything needs to be public for that to happen, for that dance to happen. When you put everything into a package, we're now working within the confines of, normal Java constructs. Like, hey, I don't need everything to be public because everything I'm talking to is here. So that's another big advantage of Spring Modulith. You get to start to package by modules, and nothing needs to be public because the way that we communicate with different modules is through event architecture. So definitely something to look at. Hey, Dan, I'm using a couple of scheduled tasks in my project. I would like to have a dashboard view of these, like a visual representation. Can Spring Admin help with this? Absolutely. Spring Admin, still a great project. Definitely. I'm using a couple of scheduled tasks. Yeah, in the previous position I was at, we had Spring Admin everywhere for giving us insight into some of those applications. So yes. Is there an easier way to register multiple functions for function calling in Spring AI? Manually having to pass function names, writing descriptions for the functions and its fields gets tiring. No, I still think you need to, let's look at this. So another thing I was going to do today is upgrade the Spring AI workshop, but we are not going to get to that today because you guys had so many great questions. But if you're talking about this, so no, you still need to register a function. So this is the function definition. And this description is very important because the LLM reads this in determining oh, you asked about the weather. I saw there's a function that I can call for this. So you still need the function definition for that. Writing descriptions. I think it's just part of the deal, man. No, I don't think there's any way around that right now. You could automate this. You could use You could definitely use an LLM for this. Here is what I expect a function to look like. Here's the format. Here's what I want it to do. Here's some previous examples. I think there's a way to automate this, but no, as far as like Spring AI goes, you're going to have to manually register each of those functions. Hey, what do you think about Java and Web 3? Can't find many resources. I'm not, just so I'm clear, when we're talking about Web 3, are we talking about like crypto and all of that? If that's the case, I don't know. I am not into that world at all. So you're asking the wrong person there. Thanks, Dan. I was able to use an LM I've hosted on another server yesterday. Thank you for all your videos. That's awesome. Yes. So if you don't know, you can use Ollama. You can load some open source models. That could be on any server you want. You can use Spring AI to talk to that. We did a video on RAG yesterday, and I'm going to follow that up with a video on RAG with Ollama, because one of the concerns organizations have, and rightfully so, is I don't want to send all my private documentation out to something like OpenAI. So I get that. So yeah, we'll follow that up. Whew, man, you guys are awesome. Thank you for all the wonderful questions. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm going to have to get something to eat soon. We've been doing this for 2 hours now. Time flies when you're hanging out with your friends, I guess. Do you prefer JTE or Timeleaf, and why? So I'm so new to JTE. I'm going to cop out here and say I prefer them both. I prefer Timeleaf because it's been around forever, and there's a lot of information out there. And when I need to like look something up, or documentation, examples, it's just, there's a lot of great information out there. It's easy to find. From just a development standpoint, I think I prefer JTE, because with Timeleaf, you're in a controller. You put something into the model, like a list of users. When I'm in a Timeleaf template, maybe I don't know enough. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But when I'm in a Timeleaf template, I iterate over those users. I don't have any intelligence into like, is this a thing? Is this a function? Is this a property? Like, I have no intelligence to like guide me. Like, am I doing the right thing? In JTE, I define a list of users as a parameter at the top. When I type users dot, I get intelligence. Like, I know what's available. I'm not kind of guessing at that point, right? So I prefer, I think the code that I write to in JTE is just cleaner for me. Where did we put the, it's in the dashboard. So if authorities is not equal to null and authorities is empty, here's what we're doing. Let's iterate over this. Again, when I say authority dot, I get intelligence. Like, I know what objects are available to, what properties are available to me, right? What functions are available to me. So I prefer it for that reason. And when I look at somebody else's code, I look at the top here. I go, okay, here are the types that I'm working with in this template. There's no like guesswork. I don't have to like bounce around, go look at the controller, figure out what was put into the model. So for that reason, I'm a big fan of JTE. Can you make some videos on function calling? I have one video on function calling. Let's go find it. Let's do it. I don't know that I have a blog post on it yet, so. Videos, function. Spring AI functions, this is the one you're looking for. Ooh, see that like, oh, whoops, I'm not sharing. See that ugly background? Oh, I much prefer my background right now. Yeah, how to register custom Java functions with the chat client. So this should get you there. Although I don't remember if the code for this might be a little outdated. You can always look at this repo, Spring AI Workshop. I think we're going to do that on next stream. I'll stream tomorrow. We're going to update this to use the latest milestone 3 and just kind of clean some of these tutorials up. This is kind of where all of my code for kind of Spring AI demos lives. So we'll go ahead and clean this up, but that's a good place to look if you want an example of functions. I think Cornel is the lead for Spring Web Services. Right. Cool. So cool. Yeah. So we can ask Cornel about that. I want to integrate an AI doctor into my SaaS, doctor patient appointment system. Love that idea. Again, the ideas, once you start jumping into what AI can do, should really start getting you excited. All these ideas should like start swirling around in your head of like, how can I take advantage of this? It will prescribe medications and trained on the doctor's data specifically inside my application. Anything is possible, Ali. I would say start small though. It sounds like these are big goals, but like an appointment system. Yeah, that seems like something fun to work on. One of the things I wanted to do this summer, I didn't get around to, but I'm gonna over the winter. I take lessons. I take golf lessons. I've just started golfing. I'm in year 2 now. And the golf instructor is really good. He's an awesome guy. He's really good. But like he doesn't have a system for setting up an appointment with him. Like he's like, it's an email back and forth. He goes, well, I'm available on Tuesday at 9. I'm like, well, I'm not. How about Thursday at 10? No. Like, so like, I know there are many systems out there, but I was going to tinker around with building him one for that. And yeah, where AI could fit into that is like, hey, I have all these appointments next week. I forgot I have some PTO that I got to take. So I got to take Tuesday and Thursday off based on previous appointments that I've had with that client. Maybe we can go ahead and try to automatically reschedule them. I mean, we'll put them down as like a draft. We'll send out a notification. If they like it, they can accept it. Yeah, I mean, there's so many cool things that you can do with this. So yeah, I would say anything's possible, but start small and build from there. Thanks for highlighting all of the recent Spring AI stuff, and in general, thanks for all the Spring AI related stuff. Awesome. Yeah, no problem at all. I love it. I love building stuff. I love tinkering, so it's been a lot of fun. We have some exciting things. So I don't know that I don't know that I can say on that one yet, but on Monday's edition of Spring Office Hours, one of the things I wanted to build out was a resource for Spring AI. And we've done this before on Spring Office Hours where we built out some learning resources for Spring. We're going to build out a learning resource for Spring AI. So the repo is called Awesome Spring. You can find it on my GitHub. Nothing's there yet. We're going to build this out in real time. But like, here are some books. Here are some videos. Here are some presentations from different conferences. Here are some repos that you can look at. Here are some blog posts. Here are some articles. Here, anything that we can kind of put together. We're going to build out a good resource for that. And then Mark Pollock, the lead for Spring AI, said he will go ahead and include that in the GitHub repo. Because the idea was we wanted to help with onboarding, but you don't want to pollute the main README with all these resources. So we'll kind of link out to that from there. So that should be fun. Super chat. Oh man, every time we get a super chat, we're going to start doing this. Oh, is it not showing? Oh, let's do it on this one. There we go. Super chat. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Very much appreciated. Thank you. It says, thank you for all your answers. You're welcome. I love to show up and hang out. So thank you for hanging out with me. This has been a lot of fun. Spring AI full release. I don't have a date. Have an idea, but can't share that. But I don't know. Don't know the date yet. Most are likely that. Yep. Hi, Bobby. Definitely possible, but sounds like touching a very regulated area. Ooh, yeah. I'd suggest AI be a doctor helper, like provide a template, and then a real doctor would approve. And yeah, that's why I said start small and go big. Appointments, less regulated, right? But yeah, automatically prescribing medication, There's probably some hoops around that for sure. What did you tell about the importance of Java certification? So the importance for certifications for me are more about the journey than the piece of paper. Some jobs may require a certification for that. In that scenario, absolutely, it's important to get. If a job doesn't require certification, maybe it looks good on a resume. Like, hey, I have these 3 different certifications, and I'm up against this other candidate, and they don't have any certifications. Maybe that helps out. But it's more about the journey. Like, you went through the process of getting this certification, deciding you were going to do it, went through everything that you needed to learn to understand that, to take a practice exam, to maybe fail, to do it again. The process of learning to getting to that point, I think, is really where it's worth it for me. Do you have any tips for preventing AI jailbreaking? I don't even know what that is, so this is a new one for me. I like to come here and learn from you guys, so here we go. What is AI jailbreaking? Attempts to circumvent an AI system built-in safeguards. Okay, so now that makes sense. So yeah, so all these systems have these built-in safeguards and constraints. Hey, how do you build a nuclear bomb? I'm not going to tell you that because I don't want you building a nuclear bomb, right? Role play scenarios that try to, but I'm not even going to read this because I don't want to know how to break this. So no, I don't have an answer for that. That is a really good question, though. It's probably really important in organizations, AI-powered applications. So thank you for putting that on my radar. I'm going to add that to my list of things to think about. Another cool idea for AI is for houses and offices, architecture building, and a full 3D image model. Next step for AI creating images. Man, it's just like, I've just seen some really crazy things. I think where did I share this? I think I shared this on my newsletter. Yes, here is it. This is insane to me. None of these photos are actually me. These were all generated by AI. So this is not me. This is not me. That is not me. I mean, it even looks like my bookshelf, kind of. Well, not my bookshelf. Not my bookshelf again. These were all generated by AI. It is crazy what these can do. I had another one down here of like a presidential look. It's just crazy where we are with AI. And I honestly wake up excited every day. I feel like there's a certain part of the population that's scared. And I get it, doom and gloom type stuff. And like, yeah, people worry about losing their jobs. I get that. But I'm way more excited than I am scared. Just the things that it's allowing me to do. It's allowing me to be more productive. Like I said, I walked you through the process of creating a tutorial and all the things that goes into it, and writing an associated blog post and social media posts, and coming up with demo ideas that aren't the same boring ones as before. Like, it has all helped me with that. I can create way more content, and that's what I like to do. So yeah, I'm just very excited about it. I'm tinkering with stuff, building things with AI. It's just been so much fun. Oh, look at this. You look sharp, Dan. You look good in a black suit. It's funny you say that. I said the thing that that I really got out of this is I told my wife, I'm like, I need to buy some more suits. I look good in a suit. At least that version of me looks good in a suit. I don't know about me. We'll see. Cool. All right. I need to get some lunch, friends. I had some more plans of things we can do today, but you guys are just too awesome. Like, you just showed up and hung out. And I appreciate that. We had like a ton of people on the stream. So many great questions. You just made it so easy. So thank you for showing up, hanging out with me. We're going to do this again. Shoot, maybe we even start doing this all the time. I'm going to figure out the audio. I like to like chill vibe music while we do this. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. Let me know what you'd like to see on the stream. I think tomorrow we're going to work on the Spring AI repo so we can kind of clean that up, add some stuff to it. And then I'll just take you through the tutorials, the content that I'm working on. We'll put some apps together. We'll work on the readmes. We'll work on some code and answer questions. So I love you guys. I really do. I mentioned this last week. I've been getting some really amazing feedback, some just positivity, really nice messages. I got one last week. I helped someone get a job, and he was just so thankful. And we all need to work. Like, I get it. Like, I have a family to take care of. I want nice things. I want to be able to buy new equipment for the studio. Like, we all have to work, right? But if you can find something you truly enjoy doing, sometimes it doesn't feel like work. This didn't feel like work. I was hanging out and looking at some cool stuff and answering some questions, right? I was on an insurance call yesterday reviewing my plan, and somebody was like, "What do you do for work?" And I kind of told her. She's like, "Do you like it?" I'm like, "No, I love it. I love what I do." She's like, "Wow, nobody ever says that." And it's true. I love what I do. I could do without the expense reports, but for the most part, I love what I do, and I appreciate hanging out with you guys. And I thank you for all of your encouraging words. I appreciate it. Where can you get a t-shirt like this? Oh, I made this one. This is a spring. This is my golf polo, my Nike polo. I made this one. I'm not saying you can't do the same. I'm not saying you can, but you could probably figure that out. Cool. All right. We'll be back tomorrow, I think, as long as we have some time, as long as the kids aren't still sick, we should be okay. So thanks again for hanging out. We'll do this again. I'll get the audio figured out. Again, reach out to me on Twitter. Let me know what you'd like to see on these streams. And yeah, we'll start doing more of these. You guys are awesome. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.